Welcome to Treasure Coast Community Health, with 7 locations to serve you better. We have a dedicated staff. And now, here's your host, CEO Vicki Soule.
And welcome to Community Conversations. Every day brings new challenges, new joys, new opportunities, and this week will be no different. We have a primary care healthcare setting, and as everyone is keenly aware, during this time we are continuing to be just a little bit on edge relative to the COVID virus, and we are therefore stressing out with constant seeking information. A huge part of our communication these days is on the internet, whether it's through your phone, your PC, through a website, through multiple websites. We're always seeking information. So I thought it might be helpful to branch off of the whole primary care mode and move to the actual devices. And so I asked Steve Schwartz, who has been a business-to-business IT leader in our community for many years, helps a lot of nonprofits like Treasure Coast Community Health with the things that they produce in terms of structure and regulatory advisement and those types of things, to talk a little bit about what we as general audiences see and experience and some of the whys behind it, as well as some of the things that he does suggest for business owners and nonprofit leaders as well. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
We said this was not going to be a sales gig, so I want to make sure the consumers are keenly aware that that's not the idea, but rather, you know, those of us that have been using first PCs and then into our phones over these years have seen a number of changes, and we all like to think that they're great changes, but sometimes they're frustrating after an upgrade. Why in the world do we have to endure these updates?
Okay, well, very very good question.
Putting you right on the spot.
Yes,
here.
Exactly. So technology always marches forward. There's always going to be innovation. In fact, when it comes down to it, technology is typically the biggest area of innovation, simply because that's what technology is all about. How do you use computers and
faster and better, right?
The related services faster and better.
Okay.
For example, you can have a phone that originally was just simply for dialing, and it was on the wall, and it was attached by a twisty wire.
We remember those days.
And as time went by, you got to have a phone that could communicate without being plugged into the wall. Fast forward many years, everybody has a phone in their pocket, and then it was a little computer in the phone in their pocket that had a phone application, and then the whole internet in the phone, and then social media, and before you know it, your phone has taken the place of 27 different devices and items around your home. That how many of you still have a VCR?
Ooh, yeah.
Answering machine. We don't need these things anymore because the cell phone has taken
or the big
over.
Video camera.
Right, the Sony Cam.
Yeah.
Yep, don't need it.
It's a relic.
I have an iPhone. I don't need any of that stuff anymore. And so it's very exciting how technology has certainly marched forward. On the other hand, though, there's certainly the phone addiction that has become so scary with kids and adults who can't put their phone down, can't leave it alone, can't stop messing with it even when they're driving. It's ruined relationships, so many things. So there's positives and negatives when it comes to that technology.
So following that line of thought, 5 years ago, I probably didn't have any apps. Well, maybe our Treasure Coast Community Health app was on there, but there really wasn't that great push to put apps out and put them on your phone. And today, I'm probably not unusual in saying I have to scroll a couple of pages to get to the app that I'm looking for. Do you think they will replace websites then?
There are some instances where the app is so much better than the website that it just simply makes sense to use an app only. For example, social media like Facebook, Instagram, etc. The websites do exist, but they're designed primarily to be used as an app on your phone.
So that's one of the technology changes that we have seen, is that a website used to spread across and down and have different selections that you would grab off of your PC cursor. Now, when they have to flow on your phone that has this littler screen, the website design then has changed in many businesses.
Absolutely. So the keyword in my industry is called mobile responsiveness. The idea is that will your website look good on the typical big screen, 50-inch or bigger? Will it work on a typical laptop, a smartphone, and a tablet?
Wow.
All right. And so earlier on in my career, and again, I started my business in 1999, everything was just simply a typical computer. But as technology marched forward through the first 10 years of my career, it was all about using Flash and programs that really made it almost like overly complicated and attractive and fun and different on the big screen. But when smartphones came around about 11, 12 years ago now, that started a huge shift in the technology where websites actually started becoming more simple. Why? So they would look good on the big screen and be able to responsively shift to fill the smaller, more narrow screen automatically. And in fact, during a few years in there, websites changed to a more scrolling look to mimic Facebook. I don't know if you remember that. I was never a big fan of the forever scrolling single web page for all of your entire website. That's not a design that I personally like. I found that design for us made it more difficult to rank more favorably on Google. But instead, when you have separate, distinct web pages, that's much easier to target as what's called a landing page, so that your search for Vero Beach dentist or best pizza in Vero Beach, phrases like that, can go to specific pages on the website that are designed to be marketed for that phrase to appear at the top of Google.
So that's another change that most of us don't think about. It just sort of happens in terms of why website looks change, because they are linked to all of these other types of things like Google Analytics.
Right. Now, Google Analytics is a different program that some businesses and organizations know about, others have heard of, and other people I've never heard of that. What analytics are is simply, how do I keep track of the traffic that's coming to my website? Where did it come from? How many visitors are coming? What pages are they landing on? If they came from a Google search, what phrases did they type in to find my business that they then clicked and came into my website? How much time are they spending on my pages? And so much more.
Right.
That's what Google Analytics is all about. And I think what you're referring to is one of the changes in design, the sort of traditional website that many businesses have created over the last 20 plus years, is where you have logos in the corner and home and about us and services and products and just across the header. Millions and millions of websites have that same general look. Well, over the last few years, a new concept called the digital sales funnel has appeared. And what that is a single web page that has at the top some problem. Are you dealing with this issue? We can help. And then there's a video, which is called a video sales letter. And you go down the page and you see testimonials and you see problems and solutions. And then when you get to the bottom of the thing, it says, buy now, right?
Or for an appointment, call TCCH.
Absolutely.
I hear a new design in the process.
Yeah, we're here for you, Vic. You know it. The idea is what's called the call to action. And that's what that little button is. And typically it's very bright in a different color than the rest of the page. So it stands out. Buy the product, sign up for an appointment, get a consultation, whatever the call to action thing is that we call a conversion. The idea is someone goes from being a cold visitor to the website, they click, and that makes essentially a conversion. Now they're a lead. Engaged. Now they're engaged. Now they're going to buy my product.
That's right.
There's one technology that I wanted to share with you that I think is so brilliant, and it's called remarketing.
Okay.
Now, you may not know that phrase, but it's happened to you.
It's difficult to think about remarketing a patient.
Exactly. So here's how this works.
Okay.
You can visit a page on a website and look around. Maybe you want to buy a kayak for the family to go out on the Indian River and paddle around. So you go to a website, you look at a particular kayak, and then, it's dinner time or I got a phone call, and you leave.
Right.
Well, it seems like the next day and the day after that, you keep seeing ads around the web of that kayak for sale. It's like it follows you.
It does.
Okay. Remarketing. the company that sells the kayaks and has the website where you were searching is remarketing to you with ads showing you the thing you were previously looking at, with the hopes that if you see that ad enough times, that you're going to want to click it and go back to their website, pull out your credit card and buy the kayak.
This is where I usually hear the screaming, they've sold my name and address to another company.
Correct.
But that's not, you're saying that's not what's happening.
No, it is not.
Okay.
And Google and Facebook primarily have been the target of lawsuits for privacy issues, Capitol Hill investigations, that whole deal. And it's really quite simple technology. There's a bit of code that's called either a pixel or a cookie. Those phrases are used both. And the idea is when you go to a particular web page, it puts this cookie file on your browser.
And many
Chrome,
places will ask you,
yes,
we use cookies, is that okay? So that's what we're okaying.
That's why it's there. That's a cover your hiney legalese message, because the company that's doing this cookie wants to protect themselves from someone saying, hey, you did this without my permission.
Now I got it.
And did you notice that all of a sudden it was on tons and tons of websites all at the same time?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
When government passes a rule and businesses try to follow that rule, then all of a sudden you start seeing that. Do you ever read through those privacy policies? Or do you just simply click the button that says, yeah, I accept it?
It depends on how many hours I have. Because
You're
they
like
don't
me.
they don't make them short.
I don't have any extra time for this. And so you have to trust that this is going to be legitimate, and hoping that you can always say, let me out.
Right.
Stop sending me emails, stop texting me, stop following me or whatever. But most people just click the yes button and move on.
Well, Steve, I hate to cut you short because this is really fascinating, but we're going to take a word from our sponsors and then we'll come back. That tip alone is worth gold. So we'll be right back.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. You're on Planet Vero Radio and TV. Stay with us.
The Bottle Shop. Liquor, wine from France, Italy, Spain, and California. They even do deliveries and parties. Are you planning an event? Bottle Shop provides liquor and wine on consignment. Pay for the booze you use. They deliver anywhere on the island. Hotel rooms, too. The Bottle Shop, next to the Boiler Bar, both on Ocean Drive in Vero Beach. The Bottle Shop, 772-231-0277.
Millennium Cremation Service now has 3 convenient locations. Visit Millennium Cremation Service in Sebastian, Vero Beach, and now their newest location in Port St. Lucie's Tradition. A simple cremation is very affordable for just $7.95. Locally owned and operated, Millennium Cremation Service is proud to be the Treasure Coast on-site crematory. Reach out when you are in need to Millennium Cremation Service, 772-999-5547. Online at millenniumcremationservice.com.
Blue Dolphin Pools strives to provide quality service with a well-trained staff in the field and in the office. They want you to know that your pool or spa investment means much more to them than just another account. They believe you have entrusted them with your investment, and they'll do their best to see that it stays in top condition. Blue Dolphin Pool has been in business over 35 years, setting them apart from the competition. Residential or commercial, Blue Dolphin will keep you in the swim. 567-5853.
And welcome back to Community Conversations. If you're just joining us, this is Vicki Soule from Treasure Coast Community Health. And today I have with me a special guest, someone I've known for quite some time, and that would be Steve Schwartz, who is an IT leader in our community, primarily business to business, helping local nonprofits. But again, as he said earlier, with over 20 years in the business, he seemed to be the ideal pick for me to arm twist to come and talk about how technology has changed and some of the things that as regular users we don't think about. And one of those we just hashed over a bit, and that was the use of cookies, and how when you say okay, you're really saying okay to remarketing or bringing whatever you've looked for back for reconsideration. So maybe Treasure Coast is going to have some cookies. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe real cookies instead.
I'm a fan of chocolate chip, by the way.
Okay. Now those are the cookies I really understand.
Yes.
And, it's good for some businesses, not so good for other businesses, but it is perfectly legitimate because, as you say, sometimes you start a search and then you get called away. And there's nothing worse than having to re-enter, the same 5 steps to get to a certain point. So there are both advantages and disadvantages to some of the things that are going on. One of those things that was prompted a few years ago was a similar kind of government initiation, the right to sue anyone for anything. And a lot of nonprofits suddenly found out that their website wasn't ADA compliant. And when we heard that, we were like, well, how does that work? When I think of ADA compliance, I think of, wheelchair ramps and things that help disabled people. And they said, that's right. So people who have some visual problems, like the blind people, can't use your website. And we were like, okay, tell us more. And that's when we called you. So tell us about that whole ADA phenomenon, what the intent is behind it, and how people have responded.
Sure. That's such an important topic, Vicki. Thanks for bringing it up. 30 years ago, the federal government passed the Americans with Disabilities Act, federal law, which is, as you mentioned, to make sure that a business, if they do business with the general public, needs to be accessible to people with disabilities, such as if you're in a wheelchair and those type of physical issues. Well, think about 30 years ago, the internet was still just a baby of a thing, only used on college campuses and the U.S. military.
Right.
But as time has gone forward, more and more businesses do all their business on the internet. In fact, so many businesses don't even have a physical location anymore.
It still amazes me.
Right? You have a laptop, a cell phone, an internet connection, you can run your business, certain businesses, from pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
And so what happened is certain people had recognized that they were, let's say a blind person is trying to use a website, and the website was not designed to work with their assistive program, which typically is like a screen reader, a program that will read to a person in a computer voice the words on the page, something like that, right? And it reads through the words. Well, if the website is not specifically designed to be compatible with the screen reading programs, then something's going to fail. And what happens is a blind user won't be able to use and navigate the website. Well, some people may look at that and say, yeah, but do blind people really want to use the web anyways? Come on. And the answer is yes. Absolutely.
Just because you're visually impaired or hearing impaired does not mean that you are not functioning as a citizen in our
Exactly.
world.
That is so true. I've heard numbers somewhere over 25 million American adults have either full blindness or significant visual issues. 25 million.
That's a lot of people.
8%,
wow.
10% of the population, some just huge, huge numbers. And so that being said, we, as a website design company, built in technology into our system, which permits the, when we build a website, to make an ADA-friendly version that works well with the screen reading programs. Here's our process. We build the website at first, make it look great for the typical user. We then create the ADA version, the accessible version, and we make a.www.tcchinc.org, let's say, for your website.
Okay.
And we have a link at the top of the website that says, essentially, click here to go to the accessible version. Well, then we go through each and every page of the accessible version with our software to make sure that all of the violations and issues have been cleared, fixed, remedied, etc. When all that's done, we have a young man named Devin who lives in the Midwest. He's been blind since birth. He's in his mid to late 20s now, and he has grown up on the assistive software for his computer and his smartphone. So he's our team member. We hire him to go through the ADA version to make sure he can use it properly, successfully. If there's any issues that come up, he will tell us. We fix them. He tests it again so that he says, look, this is great. I'm able to use this website perfectly. No issues. And then we turn it over to the client, and then we provide the client with a training video on how they, when they update their website, can keep their website continued accessible for a blind user.
It was at that point that I think I stopped all of my web design work with you.
Yes, you did. You said, stop, let's get this fixed and make this happen. And then you want to hire us to do your updates for you, whatever.
Whatever.
Or Colleen does a great job too.
I knew that I was out of that. I'll do that quick fix because there was nothing quick then. And that is one of the downsides, not to your particular product, but to the technology in general. There are lots of Devons and younger in the world that are more than happy to help us, and we have to turn the reins over to them. So it does sometimes make things a little more complicated. From a user's perspective, have you gotten feedback relative to, how helpful it is or how it compares to other things out there?
Sure. Great question. We've done a ton of research on different software platforms and systems that claim to make a website accessible to people with disabilities. Mm-hmm. Many people use a program called WordPress to build their websites, mm-hmm. and WordPress has a couple of third-party plugins that you kind of stick on there, and it claims to make your website accessible. The problem is when you have a person like Devin check the website, there's still a giant mess of problems, and it's not really accessible. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a flesh wound. It's trying to help, it's trying to make the effort, but it's not the solution. Okay. And so I've talked to so many hundreds of clients over the years, last several years where this has been an important issue, mm-hmm. who say, well, I have this, my WordPress, I have this type of app that goes on it, and I test the website and I find dozens or hundreds of violations. I send it over to Devin. He finds tons of problems. So I tell the client, yes, you've got an attempt toward this, but it's not actually solving the problem. And so your website and your business is still in a kind of a precarious predicament where you still might be liable for a lawsuit. And here's where it gets ugly. Okay. The ADA was supposed to be designed to make it better for people with disabilities. Mm-hmm. What's happened, though, is that a particular, let's say, law firm has a blind client, and what they do in their law firm is they test hundreds of websites, many, in the same day. I can do the same testing. It's quite easy. Mm-hmm. It takes 30 seconds to test a website to see if it passes or fails. And if it fails, they're rubber stamping a letter, basically a demand letter to that client saying, hey, we're the law firm of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. And our client is blind and they're unable to use your website. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we're planning to sue you. But if you pay us X dollars, then we'll let this go and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That is happening right now.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so if my listeners of this interview take nothing else from this, please, if you have a website for your business or a nonprofit or a friend who does, please test it to see if it's ADA compliant or not. And if you don't know how to do that, they can reach out to me or do a search or whatever. Please test it because we don't want you getting sued.
Yes, because these demands are quite high, $50,000, $75,000, $100,000. It's not chump change.
That's correct.
And, it reminds me of our early days of translation because we have a number of people whose primary language is not English. And so we went to Google Translator. And yes, it will give you a translation, but there are so many different dialects of Spanish, for example, that just using that, sometimes things slip through that can be quite offensive just because of a word here or there that is translated differently in a different dialect of Spanish. And so, again, sometimes the quick solution, the cheaper solution is not necessarily the right one. And I guess WordPress falls under that.
Well, typically it's not. The phrase, you get what you pay for, still rings true.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be the world's most expensive project, but a $10 plugin or something is probably not going to be as effective as you want.
So the key ending message here is take another look at your web page, take a look at the tools that you're using, make sure you understand them and keep them current, right?
I would agree, and speak to your web designer about this very issue. Say, hey, web designer, I heard about this ADA thing. Please test my website and let me know if you have violations. If we do, how do we fix them?
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time and attention, your expertise.
Thank you.
And listeners, I will be back with you next week. Thank you for your time and attention, and have a great, great day.